Cool, that's working. We're actually going to start lying on our backs. So you can take your time and get yourself set up while I just do a little hello over here and check my time is working. Okay. What do we need? We need that page where I can see it, more or less. Not that I ever look at it, but it seems like I should have it on, doesn't it? And we need a timer. There we go. All sorted. Hi everyone and welcome to class. We're going to start lying down on our backs. So take your time to come down onto your back and we'll meet here lying on our back with our feet on the floor. And you might think about bringing your feet in quite close to the body. So having the feet maybe in the position that you might come to for bridge. So feet are just sort of brushable with your fingertips when you reach the hands down. You can take your time in getting settled here. If there are any little movements that you need to make, please feel free to make them. Your hands can rest wherever you like them, beside you. Maybe the palms face up, maybe they face down, perhaps the hands rest on your belly. Maybe you really like the sensation of arms lightly kind of floating overhead. Whatever feels right for you, and you're welcome to test out options. You don't have to immediately kind of come into the position that you're going to sort of become still in. You can take a bit of time to get there. Once you've got yourself settled or you're thinking about perhaps becoming still, maybe you might like to use an exhale breath to allow that stillness to creep into the body. So taking a slow inhale breath through the nose. And just with your exhale, allowing the body to sink into the floor. For the jaw to relax. Perhaps the eyes drift closed and the body becomes still. And we're going to just begin in this stillness, in this quiet, checking in with how the body is. Noticing how the body feels. Observing sensations, feelings, emotion, your mood, your energy level. Taking stock of what is here on the mat in a way that kind of casts no judgment, in a way that allows whatever is here to be here. Allowing the body to kind of give you all the information you need to carry you through your practice. Allowing the body to tell you what it needs from this evening. A slow breath that doesn't have to be particularly controlled. It can just be slow and soft. We're going to take a couple more breaths in stillness and quiet here. When you come to your next inhale breath, just simply allow both knees to drop towards your right with your inhale. And then roll them back through center with your exhale. Inhale breath, both knees over to your left. Soft, doesn't have to be a big movement. Back through center with your exhale. From here, draw the feet off the floor. So the knees come softly towards the body, and it's very much your choice how close the knees come. Some of us might be really happy allowing the knees to come right close in. Others of us might need the knees slightly further away. You're going to bring the palms of your hands over your kneecaps and just use the hands to steer the knees in a circle. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can have both knees circling in the same direction, so they roll together. Or you can have both knees circling in opposite directions, like I like to think of that like a kind of hand whisk. They roll apart. So it's entirely up to you which way round you feel comfortable going. Whichever version you've gone for, you're going to feel a kind of differentiating pressure in the lower back based on where you are rolling. So whichever bit is being kind of rolled into the floor, you'll feel the pressure there in the lower back. You can make them big circles or small circles, it doesn't matter. And whichever way you've been going, you're now going to change direction. So if you're rolling two knees together, you'll simply change the circle. If you're rolling two knees apart from one another, you'll now roll them in towards one another, take them the other way. And it might be that this going in this direction sort of proves a little more challenging for your coordination. Generally, we do the side we feel most comfortable with work first. So whichever way you're going now, you might just feel a little clunkier. You might need to slow it down a bit. When you feel like you've evened out both sides of this roll, we're going to come back, find knees stacked, sort of more or less in line with the hips. They don't have to be over the hips, sort of more or less in line with the hips. And then from there, you might just slide the hands onto the front of the shin and just give the knee the squeeze in and perhaps a little wiggle from side to side. You might soften and relax the feet and the ankles. Maybe you'll go for a little rock and roll across the back. When you feel ready, you're going to stack your knees above your hips this time. So you're going to take the knees back out to the hips, which means as they go, you might observe this, you might slow it right down and see if you can watch and feel for this sensation. But as the knees go away from the body, the belly has to engage. So when the knees are stacked over the hips, the belly is just slightly switched on. The belly button draws down, the lower ribs knit in towards one another. You can bring your shins up to parallel, or you can choose to leave them hanging, whichever feels right for you. I'm going to activate my feet just because that feels like it takes a bit of weight off my lower back. Hands are going to come onto the kneecaps. Palms of the hands against the kneecaps. Some of you will have done this with me before. It's a kind of pressure-based drill. So it's not going to look like anything is happening in my body. It's going to kind of be a matter of how I match the breath and where I apply the pressure. So hands are on the kneecaps. An inhale breath pulls the belly button down towards the spine, lengthens the back of the neck. Exhale breath, hands push into knees as if you wanted to push your knees away, but your knees are going to resist that pressure. So they're going to push back into the hands. You'll feel the belly kick on. Press, 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 press the whole length of your exhale breath, and then let it go. Inhale, soften. Exhale, press, really push, hands into knees, knees into hands. Maybe you want to flex the feet, you'll feel the calf muscles activate, press, press, press. The belly might be shaking, push, hands into knees, knees into hands, and then let it go. Big inhale breath, slow through your nose. Last one, exhale, push, hands into knees, knees into hands. Feel the belly pulling down towards the floor as if you want it to imprint the lower back. Push, 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 and then let it go. Give the knees a little bit of a hug, squeeze them in if you want to, if that feels good. Have a little wiggle side to side perhaps. And then when you are ready, we're going to, yeah we are, I thought we were, we're going to squeeze the knees in towards the chest as much as makes sense for you, and tuck yourself into a little ball, which means taking an inhale breath down here on the floor and using your exhale breath to pull the belly to the spine, to round up, hug knees towards the nose towards the knees, shoulders become kind of lifted away from the mat. You're lifting your skull. Take an inhale breath here, squeeze everything in. Exhale, hold your upper body where it is, extend your legs out long and find yourself in your low boat. Yeah, so a real challenge. You're going to inhale, pull the belly in, lift it to high boat. Yes, if you come with me, amazing. If you got stuck there for a moment, put your hands down if you need to. Inhale, lift the chest in high boat. Exhale, lower it back, low boat. We're going to go for 5 of these. Inhale, high boat. Exhale, lower it back. Inhale. Exhale, send it back. Keep it going. This is halfway. Inhaling. Exhale, lower it back. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, lower back. Last one. Inhale, draw it up. Exhale, lower back. You think you're over it, but you're not. You're going to hold it here in your low boat. Bring your hands to the back of your head if you can. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, curl the upper body to the floor. Draw the knees in. So you've got a moment here. Upper body kind of spreads wide onto the mat. The elbows reaching away from one another. Space in the chest. Knees are going to stack over the hips. You can guess where this might go. Take an inhale breath, pull the belly button down. And as you exhale, extending left leg, you're going to try and bring left elbow across the body to right knee. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, right elbow, left knee. That's 1. We're going for 5. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, take it across. That's 2. Bring it back. You use your exhale to power you, to lift you away from the floor. You draw it back. Inhale. Exhale. This is your 4th. Exhale across the body. Last 1. Inhale here. Exhale left to right. Inhale to center. Exhale right to left. It's the last one. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, let the feet come to the floor. Maybe let the hips have a little wiggle across the lower back. I promise you that is that. We're going to take it, we're going to ease things off. Hands alongside the body, press the feet into the floor and just lift the hips to a shallow, soft bridge pose. So just give yourself an opportunity to lengthen the front of the body here. Soft, shallow bridge. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be kind of big, deep breaths here. You can just keep it light. Press the hips up. When you're ready, lower the back body down. All the way down, tailbone touches. Draw the knees into the chest. A little bit of a hug, perhaps. If you're feeling really ambitious here, you might cross the ankles over. Crossing the ankles over as we roll up to sit just makes things a little more interesting, a little more challenging. You could keep the feet side by side, or you could roll onto your side and come up to sit that way. If you've crossed the ankles, you're going to rock and roll up and down the spine. It's just taken away a little bit of the momentum that you might have from your feet. So a couple of rock and rolls if they feel good in your body. And then we meet seated and we immediately swing the legs around behind us and we'll head on to all fours. So that's where we're headed. You can catch me up there, setting up your all fours. I'm just going to tie my hair up so it's out of my way. So hands are spread wide on the mat and your fingertips are sort of gripping into the floor. You might have already gone there because it's sort of what the body naturally wants to do at this point in our practice. But we're headed from here into cat-cow. So spreading the hands out wide, knees are stacked underneath the hips, but we're going to break it down and come into this nice and slow. Doesn't matter if you've already been doing some, it's fine. You're going to come back to neutral if you've already been doing some cat-cow. And just in neutral, we're going to start with the tailbone. We're going to inhale, lift the tailbone. Exhale, scoop the tailbone. So just the tailbone moving, don't worry about the upper body. Inhale to lift, lengthen the belly. Exhale to tuck the tailbone, pull the belly button to the spine. You can feel already, probably, if you're familiar with this movement, you can feel the way the rest of the body wants to become involved. You can see if you can keep it just in the tailbone. One more breath. Okay, bring that back to neutral. Let's go for just the chest. You're going to drop the space between the shoulder blades and shift the gaze forwards on your inhale. So it's slightly crunchy in the upper back. You're going to exhale, push the floor away, tuck the chin to the chest. So it's just happening in my upper back. Inhale, drops the space between the shoulder blades, shift the gaze. Exhale, pushes the floor away. So it looks like there's, I think it probably looks like there's quite a lot going on in my lower back. But it's just sort of reciprocal because my body slopes towards the floor when I drop my chest. Gaze shifts, and then you tuck chin to chest, just upper back. And you might feel that wanting to kind of creep down the spine. You're going to see if you can keep it just upper back here. Last breath. Inhale, chest drops low, gaze shifts forwards. Exhale, pushes the floor away, chin to chest, space between the shoulder blades. And then see if you can let it ripple. See if you can let that pull up towards the ceiling, ripple down the length of the spine, eventually lifting into the lower back, tucking the tailbone, coming into your full expression. Lift the tailbone, inhaling. Let it ripple down the spine. The belly drops low. Eventually, the gaze shifts last. So we can send it backwards and forwards. So it becomes more of a ripple than one movement. Chin tucks to chest. Shoulder blades lift, middle back, lower back, tailbone tucks on your exhale. Inhale, tailbone lift, send it back like ping pong, all the way down the spine, chest pulls forwards, gaze lifts last. See if you can keep that going. Exhale, chin to chest. Space between the shoulder blades, then into the upper back. Middle back, tailbone tucks. Inhale, tailbone lifts. It rolls back down. Chest pulls through, gaze lifts. Go twice more, through 2 more breaths like that. This is going to be our last inhale here. And as we exhale, push into the hands, roll yourself through to neutral. Tuck your toes if that's available to you. And we're just going to bring it back, give the wrists a bit of a shake out. If tucking the toes is available and you're happy to sit the hips down on the heels, you'll hang out here. If this is all just a bit much, you can be up kneeling. If you need a different variation, for example, if you're working with sore knees that don't want to be on the floor, you're welcome to step a foot forwards and just have a little bit of a wiggle here. So giving everything a bit of a shake, perhaps maybe a roll of the shoulders feels good. No rules at this point, just a loosening off of your hands and wrists, and then maybe a bit of a wiggle through the body, a shrug of the shoulders. When we come back to the mat, we're going to start to set ourselves up for downward facing dog. So just thinking about perhaps finding that sensation of kind of opening through the chest, whatever you need to do to start to tap into that. When you're ready, we'll bring the hands back to the mat. When it feels like the hands have loosened off, the wrists have loosened off, we'll bring the hands back to the floor. Hands at the floor, toes remain tucked underneath. Take your inhale breath and push your hips back to your heels. Exhale breath, hips rise up high into your downward facing dog. And this first one, we're going to spend a bit of time here. So use your first few moments to check that your alignment feels good, that your hands are firmly anchored down, that your index finger knuckle is pressing into the floor to protect the wrists. Check that your feet aren't too close to your hands or too far away. The hips are lifting high, the tailbone reaches towards the ceiling. And once you've found your settled downward facing dog shape, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and move it. So you can bend the knees and have a real wiggle and a play here. And we are, like I said, we are going to be here for a little while. So if at any point it all just becomes a bit overwhelming, just gently release your knees to the floor and then come back in whenever you want. So take breaks as much or as little as you need. Any little movements that feel good, you're very welcome to them. You can come up high on your tiptoes. You can wag your tail from side to side. You can walk out your feet. We're going to come into our last breath here. So if you're not in downward facing dog, come back and join us. If you're in downward facing dog, let's find stillness. Take an inhale breath through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out through your mouth. One more. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, have a sigh. From here, gently look forwards, lower the knees to the mat. Just taking a breather, catching back up with ourselves, loosening off the shoulders before we start to move that downward facing dog in a more structured way. So if you need to give the wrists a shake now, please do. Please feel free to come back, give the wrists a little roll. So from that downward facing dog, I think most of you will know this next movement. So I'm not going to demonstrate it, but if you're not sure, please feel free to watch me do the first one, and then you can come into it when you've seen the first one. We'll do the first one nice and slow. We're going to go for a few. So hands firmly planted, index finger knuckle pressing down into the mat, toes tucked. When you're ready, you'll exhale it high to your downward facing dog. So if you're not sure of what a plank rollout looks like, my suggestion is that you come back to your knees and just watch me do this first one. If you think you know where you're going, you're welcome to follow along. I'm going to talk through it. You will inhale, heels peel away from the mat. Exhale, we bend the knees slightly, ripple the body forwards through to a strong plank. We straighten the arms, straighten the legs. Inhale in plank. Exhale, bend the knees, send the hips up and back as if you're drawing a big circle with them to downward facing dog. So that's one. We're going for 5. You've got 4 more. Inhale, heels high. Exhale, roll it out to plank and ripple the body forwards to plank. The gaze lifts up last, like you did in cat-cow. Inhale here. Exhale, bend the knees, send it back. 3 more. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, roll it forwards. Inhale, strong plank, hands push, resist gravity. Exhale, send it back up. Nice, you've got 2. Inhale, heels high. Come up right off the tiptoes. You roll right off the tiptoes out to plank, hip plank. Inhale. Exhale, send it back. It's going to be your last one. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, roll out. Send it back. Inhale, hips high. Exhale, gently lower the knees to the ground. Take them a little bit wider than the hips. Send the hips back to the heels. Find yourself a child's pose. Just catching up with your breath. Just give yourself a bit of a roll, a wiggle if you need to, maybe shaking out the wrists. Maybe you want to roll through the hands a bit here. If the forehead doesn't comfortably come down to find the mat in your child's pose, don't forget, you've absolutely got options of stacking the hands to create a pillow for the forehead, or stacking the fists to create a pillow for the forehead, or resting on the elbows away from that hip crease. Nice. A nice steady breath. And then from this child's pose, we'll eventually return to downward facing dog. And we're just going to play with a little movement here that we're going to come through a few times. So hands firmly plant down. Tuck the toes. Take your inhale breath. Exhale, send the hips up and back to downward facing dog. So here's our little interesting movement, starting off here with a familiar kind of crunch. So we're going to bring the left foot into the center line and inhale the right foot away from the floor. And as we exhale, we're going to draw the right knee across towards the left elbow. So it swings in under the body. Inhale, send it back up. Exhale, draw it across the body. You're going for 2 more. Comes in. Really nice. Inhale, send it up and back. Exhale, right knee across towards left elbow. See if you can hover, hold it here. Inhale, push the floor away. Exhale, see if you can step this right foot behind that left wrist. So it might be a bit clunky to try and do, and you might want to have another pass at it if you got really stuck there, that's fine. It just means that you've sort of ended up with your feet on a tightrope, hopefully. You've got your right foot more or less in front of your left foot. When that left knee comes down to the floor, that lunges on a tightrope. You might need to wiggle the right foot forwards to make space for this, but what we're going to do is just really simply see how it feels to extend and lower that back knee. It doesn't have to be quick. There's no kind of guidance as to how many breaths we're going to take here. We're just going to play around with the sensation for a little minute. So you might find that it's quite fiery in your front hip. You might find that you want to make it a bit more expressive maybe. Bit of a roll there if you want it. Any little movements that feel nice. So you can kind of explore this tightrope lunge shape. Fingers can be on the floor, or your knuckles could be on the floor. A loose fist might help to keep the wrist aligned, help to keep the fingers from really taking on a lot of tension. We'll eventually come back and gently lower the left knee to the ground. We're going to plant down the left hand. This is where it gets a bit twistery, so just listening, going with it. And inhale the right arm up and open, so coming into our twist. From this twist, I'm actually going to spin mine around, just so you can see a little bit closer what I'm doing. From this twist, you're going to tuck the back toes, extend your back knee if you want to. You might already be here with the back knee extended, and just roll onto the outside edge of that left foot as you let your right foot move away from the body. As much as it needs to feel comfortable in this sort of variation of side plank twisting. Take an inhale, reaching up, and exhale, maybe you want to drop the arm overhead. You've got 1 more breath here, inhaling. Exhale, gently roll back onto the toes as the right hand comes to the floor. You can drop the knee if you need a break. If you're happy, swing it straight back and we'll find downward facing dog. Did I mention this is quite strong? But we're going to take those breaks, we're going to take moments of ease. So don't worry, taking an inhale breath here. Exhale breath, gently lowers the knees to the floor. Widen the hips, maybe big toes can come in, hips to heels, catch yourself in child's pose. Notice how this right hip feels. Maybe you want to soften elbows down to the mat. Maybe you want to rest on the elbows and just give the neck a bit of a moment. So we're going to come through that little pattern one more time. So we start with the kind of crunch. We bring the foot across the body, feet in a tightrope. We can explore that lunge shape and then we'll play around with the twist. So hands are on the mat. Toes are tucked underneath. We set ourselves up for downward facing dog. Take an inhale breath here. Exhale, send the hips up high. All the way up to the dog. Nice. Maybe you need to move to adjust your hands and feet if you feel like stuff isn't quite in the right position. And then as soon as you're ready, the right foot maybe comes a little bit more into the center line and your left foot inhales up high. Exhale as you draw left knee across to right wrist. Really push the floor away. Make some space underneath the body. Inhale, rise up. We go twice more. Exhale, bring it across. Send it up and back. Last one. Exhale, draw it in all the way across the body. And then see if you can step this left foot forwards just behind that right wrist. So I'm not really looking for the foot to go across the mat. You're not going to end up with the feet crisscrossed. You're probably going to end up with the feet on a tightrope. And if you needed to take another go at it, you're welcome to do that. From there, we gently lower the knee down. We see if we think we might be too short. So if this left foot came in too close to the back knee, bring it forward. So you're looking for a space underneath this left thigh. Trying to work out which side I was on. Underneath this left thigh that sort of feels like you could get a packing box in underneath there. Fists can be on the floor or fingertips, and we just play around with the extension and the lowering of that back leg at your own pace. Perhaps you play around with rolling onto and off the toes, reaching the heel for the back of the mat. Maybe you get a little bit more sort of fluid in it. You can move in a way that feels interesting. Maybe you want to think about pulling all the way up to straight through the left leg if you've got the space for that. I don't quite. If you're feeling very long of arm, you might manage that one. Nice. So we'll play around with this last sort of breath or so. And then we're going to draw knee to the floor, right knee to the floor, right hand to the floor. We'll open it up into the twist. You might already need to get yourself a bit more space from this left foot. So the left foot might already need to go and give you a bit more room. Big inhale, left arm rises high. Exhale, press the right toes into the floor, lift the back knee. You might already be here. From this place, we'd make that transition to side plank. So an inhale to reach up, and an exhale to roll onto the outside edge of the right foot as the left foot moves away from the body, gives you a bit of room. You can shuffle it, heel toe it across the mat. Take an inhale breath, reach up. Exhale, maybe drop the hand overhead if that feels good for you. Big inhale breath, last breath. Exhale, gently lower the left hand to the floor as you roll back onto the right toes. You can choose to drop the knee if you need a break or step it straight up. Find your downward facing dog. Maybe you pedal here. Maybe you walk it out, have a wiggle. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, gently releases the knees to the floor. So big toes together, catching your breath. From here, so just take your moment in child's pose. You don't need to see what I'm doing the same thing as you. But I'll just tell you that from here, we're going to sort of stick with this stepping through kind of pattern. And we're going to play with it on a slightly bigger scale. So although this now might feel quite different, we're using a lot of the same muscle groups that we've already thought about. We're thinking about belly pulling up and in to make space. We're thinking about hip flexors, lifting that knee in towards the chest. So when you're ready, let's get back into it, planting the hands on the mat, tucking the toes underneath, and we'll meet back in downward facing dog. Take an inhale breath. Exhale breath sends the hips up high, all the way up to the top. Take your inhale breath in downward facing dog. Exhale breath, maybe a sigh here if you want to. Very nice. From here, inhaling, you're going to draw the right foot into the center line slightly, so that when the left foot comes up, it's nice and stable. You'll inhale, send the left leg up and back. Exhale, this time, slightly easier on the body. The left foot is going to step just in front of the right foot onto your tightrope, but about half the way up your mat. So the left foot lands about half the way up the mat. You're going to be in a really short lunge. I've just realized I need to spin mine around. So you're in a nice short lunge here, so there's space in front of and behind you, but your back heel is still off the floor. We'll inhale, nice and steady. See if you can pull up through the feet to rise. So a little wobbly because we've deliberately put ourselves on a tightrope, so it might feel a little wobbly here, that's okay. Nice and steady with the breath. You can put a little bend in that back knee if you find yourself jamming into the lower back. Inhale breath, we're at the top. Exhale breath, I'm going to ask you to bring your hands to heart center because it's just a good starting place for them. But from where we go from here, there are no instructions for your hands. So do whatever you like with your hands to keep your balance. You're going to shift body weight forwards into your left foot. So right toes become nice and light on the mat. Inhale breath. Exhale, see if you can power those right toes off the ground. They don't have to go high. They're just going to come away from the floor. And then I want you to imagine you're in slow motion going over a hurdle. That right leg is going to lift up and out to the side. Right hip is going to roll up, almost stacking on top of left. And it's going to come up and over the hurdle and out in front. Inhale, lift your toes. Exhale, back over the hurdle. Send it back, back, back. Heel reaching all the way back. Nice. Toes lightly tap. Inhale, arms rise. If you weren't there with us, don't worry. We've got another few. Exhale, fingertips to the floor. Very nice. Step it back, downward facing dog. Inhale, hips high. Exhale, roll it out to plank. So ripple it all the way out to your strong plank pose, hip plank. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, dip the chest to the floor, just half the way if you can. Push it back up. Exhale, knees to the floor. Snake the chest through, chest down to the mat. Toes push down into the floor. So something a little bit different here. We're going to combine two shapes together, sort of. And they're going to ask a little bit of your shoulders. Okay, so we're doing a lot of leg work. You might have already guessed that. But we're going to play around with a little bit of shoulder work when we're just down here on the mat. So arms are going to reach back behind you. Palms of the hands face down. Inhale breath. And you're going to rise. Tips of your toes, kneecaps. Maybe the fronts of your thighs. Hands, shoulders, and chest away from the floor. But it doesn't have to be super high. You're going to inhale, lift into your locust. Exhale, slide your hands out along the sides. I'm running out of space. Slide your hands out along the side, bend the elbows, hands come under the chest. So that little bit of mobility for the shoulders is an interesting little challenge as the hands slide across the floor. Hands plant down, toes plant down, inhale, cobra. So straight from locust into cobra, you might find you've got more space in cobra. Exhale, lower it down. So I don't think I did a particularly good job of that, of explaining that hand slide. So if you want to watch me do it, I'm going to do it again for you. If you want to do it along with me and sort of play with it, you're very welcome to. So I'm going to do it again, but you don't have to, you can just watch, because I just think I did a pretty shoddy job of explaining it first time. So what's going to happen is the body inhales a rise into cobra, into locust, whole body lifting, arms like airplane wings, toes away from the floor. Arms stay at this level, elbows bend, hands slide under the shoulders, hands press down, toes press down, inhale, cobra, lifts you a little more. Exhale, that's how it lowers. So what it is, it's the inhale elbows sliding at that level that insists on the kind of rotation in the upper body and the shoulder action happening. That's where that happens. From that cobra, we return back, tucking the toes, pushing the hips back to the heels. We'll eventually find our way back to downward facing dog. But if you need a little bit of a break on your way there, please do take it. When you feel ready, we'll return to downward facing dog. We've got to spin around, otherwise I'll kick the wall. We'll find ourselves back in downward facing dog, hips lift high. So this time it's going to be the right foot stepping, no it's not, it's going to be the left foot stepping slightly into the center line. Inhaling, the right leg lifts up high. Exhale, this right foot comes through under the body and steps about half the way between your hands and your feet, just to give you a little bit more of a solid base when we go to transfer the weight. So you are almost on a tightrope. It's quite tight between the feet, they're not on train tracks at this point. So when you go to stand, you really think about zipping up through the legs. It's almost as if you're trying to hug the thighs together as you rise up. Ooh, little wobble there. You find yourself in your short lunge. So it is quite short. You can put a bend in the back knee if you're jamming into your lower back. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hands slide to heart center. But remember, after this breath, there is no rules about what you do with your hands. Inhale, shift your weight forwards. Exhale, get those toes off the mat. Now comes the hurdle. So we go forwards and back. You're going to inhale, reach the leg out long. Exhale, toes up and over, out to the side. Left hip starts to stack onto the right. Swing it all the way up and over that high, 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 high hurdle. Inhale, lift your toes. Exhale, send it back. Heel pressing back. I'm not leaning on the wall, I promise. Send it all the way back and up and over. Toes lightly tap down. Inhale, fingertips rise. Very nice. Exhale, hands to the floor. Here we go, back through that vinyasa. Step the right foot back to match the left. We're in downward facing dog, hips are high. Inhale. Exhale, roll it out to plank. Inhale, drop the body halfway, a little press up. Exhale, push to the top. You can skip that if you don't like it. Knees to the mat, chest snakes through, chest to the mat. Hands slide back alongside your body. And we go for that locust into cobra transition. The inhale breath, we're going to lift the toes, the knee, the thighs, hands, shoulders, face away from the floor. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, slide the hands in. Elbows hug the rib cage the whole time. Hands to the floor, toes to the floor. Inhale, cobra, maybe a bit more room. Exhale to lower, all the way down. Hands plant down, tucking the toes underneath, send the hips back to the heels. You've got a moment here. If you want to pause, you're very welcome to pause. When you feel ready, we'll meet back in downward facing dog. We're going to go through that little pattern once more on each side. So once more on each side into that hurdling kind of flow. If you need to rest on your knees for a moment, you can. You're very welcome to. I'm just going to spin it around so I'm on the right side. I don't kick the wall. We'll meet back in downward facing dog when you are ready. Let's get into it on this side. So back in downward facing dog. Steady breath. From here, the left foot comes in slightly to the center line. Inhaling the right leg. I'm sorry, I've done that the wrong way around. The right leg comes slightly into the center line. Inhaling the left leg up and back. Exhaling, the left foot comes in underneath the body. I find bending the knee gets me more space. So I bend the knee and think heel to bum, heel to bum, heel to bum, all the way through until I step the foot down, about halfway up the mat. When the foot steps down, little softness in the back knee is going to go a long way. As you inhale, rise. It can help to have a little bit of softness in that back knee that then maybe straightens out or doesn't, but it just gets you a little bit more buoyancy, a little bit more spring. You're in your sort of shortened lunge. Take an inhale breath, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Fingertips maybe lightly touching or palms pressing as you shift the body weight forwards on your inhale. Exhale, get those toes away from the floor. Inhale, leg begins to lift. Let it roll the hips open, and then you start that journey up and over the hurdle. I promise you I'm not touching that back wall. Comes up and over. It goes out in front, catch an inhale, lift your toes. Exhale, send it back as high as it is right now, all the way back, quad burning, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. Lightly tap the toes down, square the hips back up as you inhale, rise. Beautiful. Exhale, hands to the mat. Really nice. So from here, we step it straight back to down dog, hips high, inhale. Exhale, roll to plank. If you want it, use that push up, inhale halfway down. Exhale to press away from the floor. Inhale, knees to the mat. Exhale to snake the chest through to the floor. Inhale to your locust, straight up and off the floor. Exhale, slide to the hands. Running out of room, hands on the mat, toes pressed down. You inhale, rise to your cobra. Exhale, body lowers, toes tuck. So if you're feeling any kind of cramping sensations in the legs or the toes, this is your moment to get a good stretch there. Hips press back to the heels. Maybe catch your breath. Any little movements that you like, you're welcome to them. And then when you are ready, you'll float back into it on the other side. So when you feel like it's the right moment, spin that around. And you feel like it's the right moment, we're back in down facing dog. There can be softness at the knees. Remember, the tailbone is lifting high. You are going to bring your left foot, into the center line. It's an inhale breath, lifting the right leg high, the opposite to what we normally do. Exhale, bend in the knees, you scoop the knee in underneath the body. Think about hugging that right heel up towards your right bum cheek. And when you feel ready, stepping the right foot down halfway, roughly, up the mat. Feet planted. So we go nice and controlled into this lift, thinking about squeezing the inner thighs together, which I know is a strange instruction because they are not nearly anywhere near each other. But if you can find that zipping up action through the inner thigh, it's going to make you much more stable. Here we go. Inhale to rise. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale to shift the body weight forwards onto the standing leg. Exhale to get those toes away from the floor. Woo, real wobble. Inhaling, you begin up and over. Open the left hip, maybe thinking about stacking it onto the right hip. Let the left shoulder lift, perhaps even, as you swing the leg up and around. When it gets out in front, you catch your inhale, lift your toes. Exhale, send it back as high as it is now. High, 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 all the way up and over that hurdle. Your last one, toes tap back. Inhale, square the hips forwards as the arms rise up. Nice. Exhale, hands to the floor. Step it back, down dog. Last vinyasa like this. We've got a different one coming up. So inhale to roll it forwards to plank. Solid into plank. You've got your inhale breath halfway to the floor. Exhale to push away. Inhale, knees to the mat. Exhale to snake the chest through, bring the body to the floor. See if you can go straight from here into locust, rise up. Exhale, bend the elbows, slide the hands under the shoulders, tops of the feet down as you inhale, lift cobra. Exhale, lowers the body to the mat. Press the hips back to the heels. Soft as you like, take a breath in child's pose. Forehead can be down on the floor. Steady, steady breath. Catching back up with yourself, letting that rhythm, that pattern go as we move from here into something else. So when you are ready, anchor down the hands. Press hands into the floor, top toes. Inhale, breath, press back. Exhale, breath, downward facing dog. Just as a transition this time, take an inhale here. Exhale, and you're going to step forwards one foot then the other as best you can. See if you can bring your feet to the outside edges of your hands. So feet come to the outside edges of your hands. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the front. So it was roughly about that wide, the position I was in. From here, we're going to inhale, arms out in front, sit the bum low, a functional squat. Exhale, hands to heart center as you go to straight legs. Inhale, arms rise up, reach for the ceiling. Exhale, offering out in front as you sit low. Nice. Inhale, hands to the floor. So from here, we exhale to step back lightly as you can, one foot then the other to find plank. Inhale here. Exhale, knees gently to the mat. Let's let that press up go. Take your inhale breath. Exhale, lower the body to the floor. You go for your cobra. Exhale, you lower. Hands under the shoulders, tuck the toes, back to downward facing dog, hips high. Exhaling, step forwards, one foot then the other if you can. So working that action that we've been playing around with, out wider than your hands. It doesn't matter if they don't go to your actual hands, but you're looking for them feet to be just slightly wider than the hands. Inhale to rise up, that functional squat, arms out in front. Exhale, press to straight legs, hands at heart center. Inhale, arms reach for the ceiling. Exhale, just let the hands float down by your sides, let the shoulders be soft. So, that is a version of our Surya Namaskar, our Sun Salutation A. We're going to do it twice more. We're going to flow it together. So this is going to be our last little bit of kind of fluid movement. My hope is that it can get nice and repetitive. So see how you feel. Steady your feet, they're wide apart. You're going to take your inhale breath and rise up, arms up and overhead. Exhale, hands out in front, knees track over big toes as you sit the hips low. Into that functional squat. Inhale, hands to heart center, straight legs. That should have been an exhale breath, so we'll hold an exhale here. I was like, otherwise it doesn't make sense. And we'll inhale, arms rise up. Exhale, sit low, offering hands out in front. Inhale, hands to the floor. Exhale, step it back to plank. Inhale, breath holds plank. Exhale, gently knees down. Another inhale here to keep it strong belly, pulling in tight. Exhale, breath lowers the body to the floor. Inhale, breath picks you up, a baby cobra, elbows reaching back towards the points of the hips. Exhale, lowers the body down. Hands firmly planted, toes tucked. You send it right back and all the way through downward facing dog. Inhale, breath, you're going to look forwards. Exhale, step one foot and then the other up to that wide squat position. Inhale to rise to the squat, knees are bent, hips are sitting low, arms are out in front. Hands to heart center as you straighten the legs, exhale. Inhale, arms rise up. Exhale, hands float down by the sides. Steady breath. Let that go. We're going one more time through. When you are ready, inhale, arms reach out in front, hips sit low. Exhale, hands to heart center as you straighten the legs. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, bum sits low, arms out in front, that offering, kind of palms facing up as you come low. Inhale, hands to the floor. Exhale, steps you back, or if you've got it, maybe a very light hop back to plank. Nice, beautiful work. Take an inhale breath there. Exhale, gently knees to the ground. Another inhale here. Exhale, gently body to the ground. Hands under the shoulders, tops of the toes, press into the floor as you lengthen from the belly button all the way up through the throat. Exhale, body comes down, toes tuck, send it back. Your last, I promise you, your last downward facing dog, take it high. Just as a transition, we inhale here, look forwards. Exhale, step one foot and then the other, out nice and wide. Inhale, tailbone down, arms reach out in front. Exhale, press to stand. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, sit low, arms reach out in front. Coming back through, hands to heart center, straighten the legs. Steady yourself here. Easy breath. Shoulders drop away from the shoulders. Let that go. From here, gradually going to start to make our way down to the ground. We're going to come down to a squat because we are almost perfectly positioned, proportioned to come into a little squat pose here. If a squat pose doesn't suit you, you're very welcome to come and sit down on the floor in any other way you like. You can take your own journey down to the mat. Take an inhale, lift the chest into the thumbs. Exhale, you're going to start to sit low. If you need to put the hands on the knees, so you've got a guide as you come down, you're very welcome to do that. If you feel like you can just drop the hips low into a squat, you're welcome to move through without the hands. Very nice. So if your heels come down on the floor, you might have elbows at the knees, elbows pressing the knees out wide. If your heels don't quite come down on the floor, it can be trickier to balance and also less useful to have the elbows on the knees. So you might instead go for fingers on the floor and think about lengthening up through the chest. If your heels are lifted, your fingertips are down and you're lifting and lengthening through the front of the body. If your heels are down, you're using the elbows to generate that length. Just because it's less useful the other way. If you're in squat, we're taking a couple of steady breaths here. If a squat is just not appealing to you, find yourself seated and we'll catch you up. Breath here. From this position, you've got a choice. You can choose to put the hands behind you and ease your bum down onto the floor, or you can take the arms out in front. Inhale. Exhale with total control, lower the bum back down to the mat. Very nice. Feet are going to find the floor and we're just going to give the knees a hug. So if you were already seated, this is where we're going to catch you up. Feet on the floor, just giving the knees a hug and allowing the back body to round, maybe the head to hang. And it's totally up to you here what you catch. You might be somebody who can catch opposite elbows over the knees. You might be on wrists, fingertips, or you might just be holding the kneecaps out in front and letting the head hang. So a rounded back, a dropping of the head. Breath steady. When you feel ready, just start to gently pull against the knees. And as you pull against the knees, find a lift of the chest and an unrolling of the neck. So that pull of the knees draws you back up to upright. And then from here, hands come back behind you. We gently lower ourselves down onto our back. So as we come down onto our back here, you can really take your time again in getting yourself set up and settled. So as you bring yourself down onto the mat, I'm going to come through a few final shapes before we start to think about coming into stillness. And we, instead of kind of flowing them or rolling them or coming into and out of the shapes, we're going to come into the shapes and hold them. So, and for that reason, I'm just going to give you a couple of variations of this first one. So the first shape we're going to come into is a static bridge. And it's not something I teach very often, but it is a very strong shape, especially strong in the breath. So I want to give you choices here. If you're feeling very low energy, perhaps you just don't feel that you've got kind of big strength left in the body, big power, big breath left in the body, you have got the choice to keep this really soft and simply tuck your hands in underneath the top of your bum. Find a really small lift of the pelvis that way. And so what I like to do is create a diamond shape with my fingers, and that diamond shape lines up with my sacrum. So the bony points on the backs of my hips at either side of the base of my thumb. My fingertips point down towards my tailbone. My thumb is supporting the very lowest point of my back. That might be enough of a bridge pose for you. This might be a way you want to hang out. A couple of breaths here. If you're more interested in coming into a full expression of bridge, or what might be your full expression of bridge today, hands are palms planted flat, feet are just within brushing distance. And as you inhale, you're going to snake the tailbone up and away from the floor, rolling yourself through, first of all, this shallow bridge. Start here. Come to a shallow bridge and just let the breath be quite easy. If you're interested in taking this up a notch, you're very welcome to, but you could also stay here, shallow bridge. If shallow bridge is interesting, maybe put 2 fists under your lower back. You could just let the body drop onto 2 fists if that works for you. Or you can hold it in shallow bridge. If you want to take it a bit further, it's going to be a squeeze of the bum that powers you up now. So squeezing the glutes, inhaling, you're going to lift the hips towards the ceiling. And you're going to start to maybe think about snuggling the shoulder blades in underneath the upper back. When you get to your limit, your highest point, it's 3 breaths. So 3 breaths for everybody from now. Inhaling to lift the chest towards the chin. Exhaling to reach the knees out long. Squeeze the bum. Inhale, chest to chin. Exhale to reach the knees forwards in space. Last breath. Inhaling. Exhale, soften space between the shoulder blades into the mat, and then let the next few breaths gently carry your body all the way down to the ground. You can take as long as you like to get down there. When your tailbone touches down on the ground, you're going to allow the feet to move just slightly further away. Feet softly planted, slightly further away. Right foot, right ankle is going to come up and cross over at the left knee. And we're not going to grab or pull at this stage. Like I said, we're kind of holding these shapes for a little bit longer. So we're just going to take a couple of breaths before we go in and make this feel very intense. So with your right ankle crossed over your left knee, your hands wherever you like, your shoulder blades nice and soft on the floor. I want you to take your inhale and think about creating length and space in the body. Back of the neck especially. Exhale, imagine you can fire that exhale breath directly into the inside of the knee and just push the knee away with it. So exhale breath sends the knee away. That's what switches on the stretch. Inhale breath lengthens the body. Exhale breath. Visible kind of force into the inside of the knee, sending the knee away. If you want to, and only if you want to, you're very welcome to bring it up a stage for this last couple of breaths, reaching your hands through the gap between your knees, the triangle you've got there, one on the outside. You'll catch either the back of the thigh or the front of the shin and just give the knee a hug in towards the body in a way that feels good. You do not need to come into any pain. Last breath here. Releasing your grip if you've got one, and gently lowering the left foot to the floor if it was lifted. You're going to simply let the right leg slide across the left. So the right leg just flops across the left. You're not supporting it anymore. Both knees are going over towards your left, and your right arm can reach out and away from the body, coming into a kind of twisted root version of our spinal twist here. If it doesn't feel good, you're very welcome to bring the right leg back on top of the left. It doesn't have to be underneath. Easy breath. You can send your gaze to look out over the right hand if that suits you. You don't have to. When it's time to move out, gently sliding this right foot out from underneath the left foot and bringing the right leg back first. Left leg follows. 2 feet firmly planted on the floor. Just take a moment to settle the lower back. So it might be that you need to pick the hips up and lay them back down by pushing the feet into the floor. It might be that you just want a bit of a wiggle of the lower back. From here, we do the same on the other side. So feet are a comfortable distance away. We bring the left ankle across the right knee. And we do nothing with our hands to start with. Instead, it all comes from the breath. Your inhale lengthens through the back of the body. Your exhale, kind of invisible force, pushing the knee back in space. Inhale, breath. Exhale, sending the knee away. if you want to. You don't have to, you can stay here working with the breath, or you can let it soften. But if you want to switch it on, you can reach the hands around the back of the thigh and find that grip if it suits you. When you feel ready, no hurry, no rush, but when it's the right moment, gently let your right foot come down and find the ground. And you're simply going to let the left leg drop over the right leg. Let it soften and relax. Both knees are going to fall to your right here as your left arm reaches out and away. If the knees don't reach the ground, your feet are right there. You can put your left foot down. Easy, relaxed breath. And when it feels like the right moment to come back, unhook the left leg first. Bring it back and over. Right foot on the ground. You roll your way back through to neutral, and you might want to resettle the lower back. Any final movements that you feel like you want to make here before you bring yourself into your final relaxation, please be my guest. You're welcome to go ahead and make those movements. If you're ready to relax, you can have the legs outstretched, the hands by the sides, palms facing up. You might have the palms facing inwards. You might have the feet on the floor and the knees knocking inwards. The hands can rest on the belly or overhead or wherever feels good for you right now. Take your time to become kind of ready for stillness. Take your time to settle yourself into your final relaxation. Once you have found yourself there, let's come into it exactly the same way that we came in at the beginning, with a slow, easy inhale breath through the nose, and an exhale breath to allow the body to sink into the mat. As the body sinks into the mat, allow things to start to soften. The jaw, the face, the shoulders. Allow a sense of ease to begin to creep through the body. Watch as the breath becomes softer, more relaxed, almost imperceptible. And when you feel ready, start to watch the inhale breath.
to watch the inhale breath and notice the sensations of the breath. Cool air at your nostrils. A lift of your collarbones, chest and belly. Bringing into the body new, fresh energy. Energy, prana, or life force. Perhaps enough as you begin to deepen the breath to wiggle the fingertips. To point and stretch and flex the toes, to maybe roll the ankles and the wrists. Moving in ways which feel really good. When you feel ready, when there's enough breath in the body, stretch the arms up and overhead. Take a full inhale, a full long body stretch. Take a reach. And then from there, gently hugging the knees into the chest and allowing yourself to roll over onto your side. And from this position, you can gently, in your own time, press yourself up to a comfortable seat. Once you've found yourself seated, perhaps the eyes stay closed or the gaze is cast down towards the floor. Just soaking up these final moments of our practice. Following in these final sensations. And if you want to seal your practice, you're very welcome to do so. Maybe bringing the hands to heart center, bowing the head to the heart, or anything else that feels right in your body. Thank you so much. Thanks, Guy. I'll come over there. I'm just going to see you for a moment. I hope you're all doing all right. It was, sorry, it's me slamming a glass down. It was so nice.